So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite neighborhoods in Virginia Beach that has access to a pool very close to the neighborhood and a lot of other cool stuff too. It's called Glenwood and it's in Virginia Beach and we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Santalone and I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area. That goes from Virginia Beach and through Williamsburg, and I do videos every week about living and moving to the area. So I get questions a lot about looking for houses that are contemporary and also have easy access to shopping and also have a nice feel to the neighborhood, an area that doesn't feel super cookie cutter. Well, the problem in Virginia Beach is that the area often has lots of newer houses, but aren't necessarily high character, just kind of cookie cuttery. Or you have older houses that have old house problems, but also feel more character laden. So you get either one or the other. So some of my goal is to find the best of both, or a balance that helps you find the most that you can get feel-wise, neighborhood-wise, house-wise, all things considered for the lowest price possible, and to get other amenities as well. And that's where Glenwood comes into play, because I think this one has a great balance for the price that you're paying. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk to you also about the things I don't like about Glenwood, because again, every neighborhood has its drawbacks. We're going to go into those details so you will feel comfortable. If you do plan to move to Glenwood, you'll feel comfortable about knowing what you're walking into before you buy. So where is Glenwood? If you look on the map, you'll see the south side of Virginia Beach, Norfolk and Chesapeake. Going further south, zooming in on the map, see right here, there's Glenwood. Glenwood is a pretty large area, and you can see circling where you see my cursor, all around here, this is Stumpy Lake, around Stumpy Lake, all through here. This is all Glenwood. And even going across to the other side of the Honeybee Golf Course, which is next to Glenwood as well. This is all Glenwood. And there are different types of neighborhoods in here, slightly based on when these houses were built. So this is a pretty big neighborhood. It spans several different parts of it, and it was built in different phases. So starting in the mid to late 80s, there were neighborhoods that were built in Glenwood. And then moving into the late 80s, early 90s, and even pushing into the mid 90s, you'll find different neighborhoods in Glenwood. And for example, Glenwood Trace, Glenwood Seasons, Glenwood Village, Glenwood Place, Glenwood Links, and Glenwood Greens. These are just there are a couple of other condo neighborhoods in here as well. This spans a lot of different parts of Glenwood, and they all have, generally speaking, a little bit different feel to them. So zooming out on the map, you'll find that it is, if you look at the general part of Virginia Beach, like the city itself, it's kind of in the middle of the city. It feels like kind of in the middle of nowhere. But what I do like about Glenwood is that you have lots of immediate access to shopping. So for example, you are off of Lynn Haven Parkway on one side, Independence Boulevard on the other side, Princess Anne Road. These are all, and even Indian River Road, these are all long roads that have connections to lots of shopping nearby. For example, like Target, Walmart, other grocery stores, Harris Teeter's right down the street, as well as Food Lion. You're only about maybe 12 to 15 minutes away from Wegmans in Town Center, which is going further up north, up into the area near 264, right near Mount Trashmore. That also is pretty convenient to be relatively close to as well. Other things like going up and down Indian River Road, like for example, plate restaurants like Chick-fil-A, Jen Thai, the great Thai place around there. There are other strip malls up there and other convenience stores, even close to Indian River Road, even Providence Road and Kempsville Road, which is along the side of Glenwood, only 5 to 7 minutes away as well. There are strip malls, there are restaurants, there is shopping all through here, Kroger, a lot of it. So you're not really hard pressed to find anything as far as bare necessities and essentials that you'll need that you can't find close to Glenwood. And that's one of the benefits of being in Glenwood. In addition to that, you've got other things. For example, you're next to Stumpy Lake Park, which is a really nice quiet park that's right across the road, across Indian River Road from Glenwood. So you go across here. Here's Glenwood right here. The park access is just up Indian River Road, almost right across the street, basically. And there are parts of Glenwood that you can get to without even having to turn onto the main road, go across the bridge, and you're in the park, the natural area. And there's a dock out there. You can go bird watching. You can, I think, go fishing. Real nice, quiet area. And then next to that is Stumpy Lake Golf Course, which is one of my favorite golf courses. It's pretty nice and nothing fancy in Stumpy Lake, but for the price in which you get, I do like it. I'm not a great golfer. I love golf, but I do think for what you're paying, I do like Stumpy Lake. And also across on the other side is Honeybee Golf Course, which Glenwood also sits right up against. And so some of the holes, you'll be right next to parts of Glenwood too. So I like Honeybee. I like Stumpy Lake a little bit better, but both of those golf courses bookending Glenwood is a nice value value to have if you do like golf and you like that quiet atmosphere around the golf courses and the natural areas. Now, what else do you get in Glenwood that makes it so interesting? So one thing about HOA neighborhoods or areas that have amenities is that you often pay more than what you might feel like you find it's worth paying to get the things that the neighborhood is giving you. For example, you might be paying for a pool and you're paying like $200, $300 a month. Or you might be paying for, a playground, or you could be paying for a gym or a security system or things that really don't matter to you, and maybe be paying more for them than you might be able to pay separately for the things you specifically do want. Well, the thing about Glenwood is that it is a very affordable HOA. You're talking under $40 a month in most cases. There are some condos that are in Glenwood as well that have much higher condo fees with more amenities, but the HOA that Glenwood has a community pool, has a clubhouse, has playgrounds, and so if you do really want that pool access, but you don't necessarily want one in your house at your house, having one in the neighborhood and it not being that much for the HOA is a big value. And the fact that you don't really find too many areas like this that have a pool like this that have such a low HOA. Part of that is because the area is so large. So while you're not paying for a bunch of different pools, or you're not paying for a lot of different amenities, you're not paying as much, but you're also, the fact that you can get this access so cheap is because you have so many houses that are pooling together, no pun intended, to get these amenities taken care of. So you don't have a ton, you're not paying a lot, but you do get something that usually costs a bit more, in my opinion. So if you're looking for a pool access, this one I think is a big deal because you get it with your low cost HOA, as well as a clubhouse too. Now let's talk about the real estate in Glenwood. What kind of houses are these? So like I said, there are several different neighborhoods in Glenwood, and each one is a little bit different, and they're all built in slightly different time periods. But generally speaking, you're talking in the mid 80s to the early to mid 90s. And they have, generally speaking, similar architecture. You'll find a majority of vinyl siding houses in here. Not too many brick. Like I mentioned before, brick in this time period is not usually holding up anything. It's just a glorified vinyl siding. But point being is that it's mostly vinyl in here. And also what you'll find too is though that as you get into the 80s, into the early 90s, the floor plans feel a bit more contemporary, and you start seeing more open floor plans. As you walk into the houses, you feel kind of more of a larger entryway, higher ceilings, things that back in the 60s, 50s, 70s, they really didn't find as valuable, but now the trends have changed. This is way more interesting to people. So this is the time period where this style of construction and floor plan became a lot more popular. So you see a lot of these types of contemporary style houses, larger windows, more light, natural light, than you would in older houses and older neighborhoods. So that makes me very interested in Glenwood for that reason, because I do know that a lot of people do like these types of floor plans, and it's hard to find the balance of the open floor plan contemporary, but also the feel of a neighborhood that feels, got a little bit of character to it as well. But what do I mean when I say character? Everybody has their own interpretations of character, and to me, character can mean older house. It can mean an older, unique design. It can mean just a quirky kind of design that you don't see too often. It could mean history. It could mean just something that is a bit atypical to what you normally find, those cookie cutter style neighborhoods. Well, what you'll see though is that with Glenwood, it is pretty cookie cutter. A lot of the houses feel somewhat similar. I mean, it's not that the area is super unique and super, full of character, but what you'll find is that as these neighborhoods get older, the trees and the foliage start filling out in ways that newer neighborhoods really can't do, because they're just not old enough yet to do that. So even though you might have neighborhoods that don't necessarily feel exactly like they've got a ton of character, the nature and the trees definitely adds to it. You're not getting the new-ish style floor plan without any sort of character at all. So I think this is a pretty good balance if you're trying to find a contemporary floor plan to get that and also not feel super sterile and cookie cutter in your neighborhood. A lot of these houses are going to be anywhere from like the 1,400 square foot on the low end, more like 15, 16 usually, that starts going into the 25, 27, sometimes into the 29, almost 3,000 square foot range. They do span a wide range. And so you find most of them are going to be 3 and 4 bedrooms, and sometimes you'll find a fifth. But you'll see a trend with a lot of frogs. This is the boom of the kind of the finished room over the garage movement, if you will, but a little bit larger frogs than you used to see. So these rooms being very useful, very, very large, but not necessarily the type of bedroom that you would expect or type of room you expect to make a traditional bedroom. They're just a very unique shape and configuration. closet space is different. So just keep that in mind when you do see a 4 or 5 bedroom house in Glenwood. Keep in mind that you might find that one of those rooms could be a bedroom that is considered a frog and is a different type of living space than the rest of the bedrooms you see in the house. So it might be more considered like a playroom for the kids, for example, or an office. It's a great use for a frog, separate from just a bedroom itself or a guest room. Another thing about Glenwood is it is a large neighborhood, and so it has a lot of walkable roadways and sidewalks all through the neighborhood, and this makes it very convenient and a lot of neighborhoods in there. So you're not feeling like you're just in one small little pocket and then back out onto a main road. You're kind of in a larger community. That being said, in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads, there are a lot of neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, and so there are a lot of neighborhoods that have roads that cars drive up and down on a lot. So keep in mind that even if there aren't any sidewalks or super quiet spots in the neighborhood, there are a lot of people that still walk in the area. It's very common for Virginia Beach residents to walk down roads, along roads, even if there aren't sidewalks, as well as the school districts that are in Glenwood are within or close by the neighborhood as well. So the high school district is Salem High School, and then Salem Middle School. But then elementary school, you've got majority of them are going to be in Rosemont, Forest, or Glenwood Elementary, which are close by to the neighborhood too. And you can, of course, check on niche.com, greatschools.org, or any other way you want to do research to make sure you feel comfortable about these schools before you buy or move into the neighborhood. The fact that you have this type of neighborhood and a lot of the schools are very close by helps with the convenience of being, living in Glenwood and then taking your kids to school or being close to the school. Another thing you'll find in Glenwood is that as the houses got more contemporary, you started seeing more rounded windows, a little bit larger windows to bring in more natural light, which is great, except for the fact that you just keep in mind that those windows often need to be replaced relatively soon because these are built in the 80s and 90s. So it'd be nice to have a house in Glenwood with these windows already replaced because you're getting to that point to where it's time to replace some of these. And as we're getting into the 25, 35 year mark of these houses being built. Another benefit too of the houses in here is that you have a lot of houses in cul-de-sacs. So while the neighborhood itself spans a lot of different parts of the section of Virginia Beach, you'll find that a lot of these main roads that are in Glenwood spin out a lot of different small cul-de-sacs. So if you have kids and you want to be in an area that doesn't have as much traffic, you can be close to a road that connects to the rest of the area with traffic, but being a cul-de-sac doesn't have a lot of people going in and out. Now, what are the prices of the real estate in Glenwood? Well, you'll get a really wide range depending on what type of house you're looking for. So the single-family houses, detached single-family houses, are mostly starting in the upper threes and low 400,000 price range, and they range up into the 450 to 5, even into the 550 price range for the larger ones, even pushing into the 560, 570. I'm starting to see in 2024, but most of them are going to be in the 4s and low 500 price range. So there are some smaller ones even in the mid 300s and pushing maybe even down lower than that. The smallest houses in Glenwood may be in that lower range, but condos more like in the 2s and 3s. But again, these are often smaller, like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom in that range, which is why they're cheaper, as well as much higher condo fees because the condo fee is separate from the HOA fee that you have in Glenwood. So it's just a much larger payment. So even though the prices are lower for those condos, you're paying still a higher payment than you might be expecting for the price of the house that's listed. But 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house, a lot of things checked boxes in that in Virginia Beach and the Salem School District. These in Glenwood would be mostly in the 420, 440, 475 even price range, and then you'll find some wiggle room in there back in the high end or the lower end. And if you're getting into the 25 and up square foot range, you're going to be starting in like around the 500 and up price range. So it depends on what space, how much you're looking for. But even that can be a pretty good value comparable to other parts of Virginia Beach. But in Salem, it's a pretty nice spot if you like the neighborhood and school district. Now, what else do I not like about Glenwood? Well, number one is that I like the way that people enjoy these floor plans. I'm personally one that prefers older houses in general, but I also know that there are some things that people don't want to pay for, and it's just a lot of stuff to do with older houses. So these are newer houses, which is helpful, but people often associate newer houses with not much to do. But these are getting, 30, 40 almost years old, and you're starting to see things that pop up. For example, polybutylene piping. I mentioned this before in other videos in houses built in the same time period. This is something that I'd say keep in mind for anything built in the 80s and in the early mid 90s of a plumbing type that has been known to rupture without really any notice. And so a lot of these houses, probably over the last 30 years, 40 years, have been replaced. This plumbing has been replaced. But don't assume that the house doesn't have any polybutylene or Quest piping. If you do talk to a home inspector, when you get a house in a place like Glenwood, they'll be able to look to see if they can tell themselves. But just get some counsel and guidance from the people involved in your process, like, for example, your real estate agent or the home inspector you may have hired to inspect the house. Other things I mentioned, like the windows, they're kind of cheap windows. So getting a house that has replacement windows, I kind of like that better than the ones that were original, not only for the fact that they're kind of cheap to me, but also because they're now getting old, like 30 years old, 35 years old. It's time to replace them if they haven't replaced them already. Another drawback to Glenwood is that while it is convenient to local shopping, grocery stores, you're also kind of far from a few things. Number one is once you leave Glenwood, it feels like you're kind of in the country because the road that you're next to, the primary road, is Indian River Road, this long road right here that feels like a country road based on the part of Indian River Road that it is. And so you're near a lot of trees and forest. It's a long 2-lane road. So being off that road feels like you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And if you zoom out, look at how far you are away from Interstate 64 and also 264. So you're in straight up suburbs at this point. So that's another thing that you can get to the beach in 25 minutes or so. You can get to downtown Norfolk in about 25-ish minutes, but you can't get to too many places within 15 or less. You can get to a lot of the same types of things, suburbs and grocery stores nearby, but it's just those bigger spots. Like the closest larger area might be town center, and it's going to take you like maybe 12 to 15 minutes at the very least, more so closer to 15, and if there's traffic, maybe closer to 20. So it feels like you're farther away from things. And so I'd say it's the frustrating part about being in Glenwood in this section of Virginia Beach is that you just don't feel like you're close to a lot of the main access points that a lot of people often like to be near. And if you find some houses in Glenwood that have not been taken care of very well, they don't really age well if they're not taken care of well. You can tell when you walk into a house in Glenwood, to me, where you're like, if they haven't taken good care of it, you kind of feel like you're buying a pretty cheap house. There's sometimes you'll find houses built in the 80s and 90s that just don't really age very well, and this is a great neighborhood illustration of that. So there's some great houses in Glenwood, but there are some that I would also kind of leave and not get involved with either. So that depends on what house you're looking at. It may affect how much it might be worth going after it. So if you want contemporary, and you may have seen other contemporary neighborhoods that are maybe in the same age built, but not as big a fan of maybe like Courthouse Estates, which is a little bit more expensive, check out Glenwood because you might be finding that you're paying maybe just a little bit less for the same type of house. So if you have any more questions about relocating to Virginia Beach or Hampton Roads in general from Virginia Beach through Williamsburg, let me know. This is what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, you can call me, email me, text me. All my contact information in the description, and you can reach out at any point, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.